How you doing? This is Legislator Richberg, and we're doing our series of one-on-ones. Today, we're with Meryl Cassidy with the Response Crisis Center. Welcome, Meryl, and why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization?
Thanks for the opportunity, Legislator. Sure, I'm the Executive Director at Response Crisis Center. We're Suffolk County's 24/7 suicide prevention and crisis intervention center. We are also the area provider for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. We do most of our work through hotline services and through online chat and text, but we also do a lot of community education and training. And we have a lot of partnerships with people in the community. I'm also the co-chair of the Suicide Prevention Coalition of Long Island.
It's very important work, and this week is a very important week, right? So, what week why is this week important to everyone?
Well, it's so important. So the entire month of September is Suicide Prevention Month. The week that we're about to embark on, September 6th through the 12th, is designated as Suicide Prevention Week, and September 10th is World Suicide Prevention Day.
Wow.
So a lot of big things going on this month.
And it's very important. So what can people do if they're concerned about someone who may have thoughts of suicide?
Yeah, I think that's such an important question because there's so much that we can do. And I want your listeners to know, I guess, primarily, I want to kind of demystify and embolden or empower people to not be afraid to talk about suicide, not be afraid to say the word. Research tells us that honest, open discussion about suicide can save lives. And so if you know someone in your life who is struggling, if they are sending out invitations, or sometimes you'll hear it called warning signs, that make you concerned that they may be having thoughts of suicide, you can ask. You can ask them, I'm worried about you. You don't seem the same, Mike. I'm aware that you're going through a tough time. Have you been having thoughts of suicide? And, if we take a playbook from other public health problems, let's say just even cancer. Remember, people were afraid to say the word cancer years ago, but then we realized that you can say the word, that people who are struggling really need to know that there are people out there who care, and who are willing to talk about it and willing to try to understand, what's going on from their perspective and listen without judgment. And it's not just about suicide prevention. It's about helping the person feel like their life is worth living.
Agreed.
And one of the things that makes a person feel like their life is worth living is if they know that there are people out here who care and who are willing to talk to them about it. So I know that sounds like such a basic thing, but people are so afraid to talk about it. People are afraid that they're going to put the idea in someone's head. They're afraid to say the word out loud. And really the truth is that if you're concerned about someone and you think that they're having thoughts of suicide, to be able to have an honest, open conversation with them. And really that's just the start. Then you can tell them about Response Crisis Center, for example.
Well, I was going to go there, but I think you said some really important things, especially in this day and age. I think naming things is so important. Naming how you feel, being open and honest with yourself and saying, listen, I have a problem, or listen, I don't know what to do.
Right.
Also naming the fact that you see that in someone else.
Right.
Yeah, and I think sometimes we are always whatever that word is.
Yeah.
Cancer. It's
domestic violence, drug use, right?
All those things. But hey, do you have a problem? Right.
Right.
I think that's important.
Are you okay? I'm worried about you. I care about you. Right.
And it's like the first thing when you do CPR. First thing is, are you okay?
That's right. Exactly.
And it's the same type of thing. So we have to think about suicide prevention and just awareness of our fellow people on this planet as
That's right.
are you okay?
That's right. That's
So
right. That's right.
can you tell us a little bit about the Suicide Prevention Coalition?
Sure. So I've been the chairperson for a long time. I think for 12 years now. And we're a group of about 30 or 40 individuals and agencies in the region. And our main task is public awareness and education. We come together, we do a conference every year, we do events around Suicide Prevention Month. Um, Thank you, by the way, for sharing. We're doing a big event on September 10th. We're going to be showing a film. It's virtual, right? These are crazy times. So you can come and you can log on virtually and watch the film Scattering CJ. And then we're going to have a discussion afterwards. That's a really important film, especially now, I think. There's been so much loss associated with COVID-19 and this pandemic, and suicide loss is a particularly difficult grieving process. But this is a film that is ultimately really inspiring, I think. So I think it'll be a good event. It'll be a good way to heighten awareness. You shared it out. It's very easy. It's free. You can go on and come on. It's from 12 to 2 on September 10th. That's one of the things that we do. We're also going to be doing a conference in December, and the focus of that conference is looking at, again, how do we create lives worth living? How do we look at the systemic issues confronting people that get in the way of them reaching their full potential and putting them at risk of suicide? So things like unemployment or fear of unemployment, homelessness or fear of homelessness, financial, medical access, all of the things that we call the social determinants of mental health. That's going to be the focus of the conference this year.
And those are really barriers to people's success. I had a conversation with one of the local ambulance chiefs, and they said, they've been busy, since the beginning of COVID, and it wasn't just because of COVID. He said they've been busy with overdoses and suicides and a number of other things or suicide attempts, I should say. Because people are, when we were, forced to stay in a lockdown, not everybody can deal with that. There are a lot of people who are social people who get their energy from others. And I think that's important to understand. And, we're not used to being stuck in one place, right? And that's
not normal, no.
Right. And I can tell you it was hard for me, right? I did not, I said, I got to get out of here. I don't know where I got to go. I'll walk around.
And I just would add to that, legislator, that not only what you said, it puts people more at risk, but the usual ways we have of coping, as you said, they're not available to us. We have to get more creative and resilient and adaptable. If your usual ways of coping are taken away, you got to figure out other ways.
Right. Now, if I normally would say, I'm going to call up my friend Mike and I'm going to go hang out with Mike, can't do that now, right? I had to, we had to figure out, and then that goes with, some other conversations we've had in reference to COVID, figuring out what your bubble is. And I know that bubble is getting bigger now that folks are going back to school, but understanding what your bubble is, and then, making sure that everybody in your bubble is playing by the same rules. I think that's important too. So I understand that you're the coordinator of the Suicide Fatality Review Team. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
That's a really exciting project. It's based on work they've done out in Oregon. So we have a team that we assembled. It's I think a 2 or 3 year grant where we review cases quarterly. So it's a partnership with the medical examiner's office. We review cases once we get consent from next of kin, and we take a look at the things that led up to the suicide, the risk factors, but more importantly, we look at what protective factors, had they been in place, could have prevented this. And then we have an epidemiologist who writes up a report with recommendations, and then I'm supposed to take the recommendations to the Suicide Prevention Coalition to see what we want to implement. So in Oregon, where they've been doing this project for a while, they saw I want to say something like a 60% decrease in the number of suicides over the course of 5 years, because they implemented certain things based on the data. So we're just at the beginning of this, and the end of September will be our second meeting where we will be reviewing 3 more cases. And then there's also an assessment tool called a SCRAP, and I can't remember what that stands for, but in addition to the medical death investigation, which in Suffolk County, the medical examiner does one on every suicide, they have to fill out this SCRAP, and that's going to give us aggregate data on all of the suicide.
Yeah, how old?
Yeah. So I'm hopeful at the end of this project, Legislator Richberg, that we'll have some really solid data that will guide us to implement some things that will really have an impact on the suicide rate. And the reason why this is so exciting to me is because we're looking at actual cases and actual data. This is not theoretical. You know what I mean? This is like, okay, this is what's going on in our county.
Real families, real situations. And I think
that's right.
Because it's not just data, right? It's dated. A lot of times people say, the numbers lie. Well, numbers don't lie, especially if they're grounded in the truth of whoever that person is.
Right.
This person was, worked in a bank, and then all of a sudden the bank closed, and then all of a sudden they got a divorce, and then all of a sudden a number of other things. That might have been the beginning of a slope, so you could see that. Right.
You're looking for those sorts of trends. I can already tell you that we've seen a trend just in the few cases that we've reviewed of alcohol, and alcoholism as being not even just correlated, but a causal factor in almost every single case we've reviewed so far. So that was terrible, but also interesting. And also things like legal issues, marital issues, things like, all of the things that I mentioned earlier, all of the crises that kind of bubble up in a person's life. So in Oregon, they put in place some things where they did training of people who serve eviction notices, for example. People at pet shelters. They found that people were giving away their pets to pet shelters before they died by suicide.
Really?
So doing training for those folks so that if somebody comes in and they look really distraught and they're giving away their pet, you know how important pets are to people, right? And so if you're giving away your
dog, then that's a warning sign. And especially if the dog is well taken care of,
That's right.
What are you moving? Like, why are you?
Exactly.
So how can folks get in touch with you? Not with you, but with the Response Crisis Center. How can they do that?
Yeah, thanks. So they can get in touch with me too. That's okay. But if you are in crisis, you just want to talk, if you're concerned about someone in your life, if you need information, you can call our crisis hotline. It is 24/7, 365. That's 631-751-7500. We also answer the National Lifeline. That's 1-800-273-8255. And if you prefer to go online and chat, we have a local chat. You can go on our website and access either the Lifeline Crisis Chat. We answer that every night from 7 p.m. till 3:30 a.m. Or you could go to our local chat, Here to Help. So you go to our website, www.responsecrisiscenter.org.
Thank you. And thank you for the work that you do. I think, I know some folks who have volunteered for the center, and they've done the texting, and they've gone to some of the sites, and they feel that they are, that they're making a difference.
Yeah.
And, sometimes when you volunteer for certain things, you're like, oh, well, I don't know if I'm doing something. But, if you get that text at 2:30 in the morning or 1 o'clock in the morning, or this person who I knew was doing a number of folks, but one individually said, plan their week around when they were scheduled.
Yes.
And
I'm glad you brought that up. And, you've worked with a lot of young people in your career, as have I. And we have a lot of college students who become crisis counselors, and we're doing our next training in October. So that's the other plug I can give. If there are any college students, we're not only looking for college students, but anyone who's looking for a meaningful way to contribute back to the community. If you want to become a crisis counselor, We provide about 100 hours of training and ongoing professional supervision. Come to the website and go to the tab, you know, how to become a volunteer and fill out the application. We're looking for you. We need you.
Agreed. I think we need more people to be giving back, and I think if if one more person volunteers to be on that chat or volunteers to answer that phone, that could be 5 or 6 more people or 10 more people that choose to stay alive.
And they
Right?
could be that vector of hope. You know what I mean? Yeah.
That rainbow of hope. Right.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Excellent. I love that.
So I want to thank you, Meryl, for coming on with us. I think it was a great conversation. I think it's a lot of well-needed information for our communities. And to those folks who are in need of help, who reach out to Response Crisis Center. Look for the National Suicide Prevention Line. And if you want to give back to your community, please find Meryl, find the Response Crisis Center. We need you. Suffolk needs you. Your community needs you. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a great day.